Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines, the British Challenge with me, Pug Gaming. Now, in part 1 of the castle project, we completed the main core of the castle ruins. I've had a bit of a change of heart in this area now, so we're going to keep the castle obviously as it is, but whilst looking on the workshop I did find quite a lot of very nice medieval buildings. So what I'm looking to do for this island now is obviously keep the historic stage up the corner with the castle, but we're going to build a real life medieval little town area. So in my eyes, the sort of idea of this story is this is an old castle, and what we've got here is a little medieval village where people can come and watch reenactments and sort of understand what it's like to have lived in this sort of era. So the first job is to create the wall around the whole of this fortress area. A lot of you commented on my last video where I was asking what should we do, and a lot of you thought that we should keep the wall consistent all the way around. I know we've got that mixture of ruined walls from the castle and these fresh laid, more medieval sort of walls as well, but the contrast I think looks really nice. We can certainly get away with it here, so we're just adding a few here across it. A bit of terraforming was needed as well for some of the rows that I placed down, but again, using the Move It mod makes life so much easier, and you can see the same here with moving the castle walls. So there we go, we did extend the smaller walls around the bottom half of the island, and this is where the sort of peasant area is going to be. The working area, the fields, the marketplace, the busy area, and in the main quarters of the castle walls is going to be obviously where everyone else is in terms of the army and the more important people, let's put it that way. So the first step is to get a few foundations in. The house in here I done off camera, and I think that layout works really well. It's kind of typical of a medieval layout, but what I want to do here is jump into a little bit of a live play, and I wanted to create a sort of an archery range here with the archery targets that I found on the workshop. So we're going to do that here, so we'll put a few down in this corner. I forget what this actual asset was. I think it was some sort of industrial mine or something, and it's not quite carried through all the assets within it, but it does work really well as a little platform here for the archery range. So we're going to add a few more of these in here. These have switched over to the bodies, so doesn't have to just be archery, it could also be for sword fighting, etc. But I wanted to obviously create the feeling of this is the inner castle, this is where all of the main fighters will be. And also, going back to the story of this area, this is the zone where you would come to sort of practice fighting around and shooting bow and arrows. So both historical and also realistic in the sense of what this area is now going to become for this project. So we'll put the haystacks behind as well to create the barrier of when you shoot you're not going to lose your arrows, etc. So just to add to the realism, you wouldn't have an open area behind the targets normally, especially for safety purposes. So we'll add a few more in this corner here as well, and a bit at the back just here. So just a bit of detailing really, just to make it come alive a little bit better. And we're going to add a few barrels as well, just to say, just some props to make things look a bit more realistic. These could be barrels that actually hold the bow and arrows. I'm not talking about barrels for booze, but again, adds to the realism and also the practicability of these could be holding the bow and arrows for the people who come to want to shoot some arrows or play with the swords. So that's pretty much that. We'll add a few bits more detail a bit later on, but that gives you the idea of what I'm trying to achieve here. So what we're going to do next, we're going to jump into some time lapse, and we're going to work on the foundations of the main sort of village area. So my intentions here is a bit of farmland in one corner. We're going to have a marketplace and then the houses, and obviously Britain was very religious back then as well, so a few churches will be pushed around as well. And yeah, let's have a look how this ends up.
Noise you couldn't quite locate or Noise you couldn't quite locate or explain. Couldn't quite locate or explain. Noise you couldn't quite.
So I'm particularly happy how this market square's turned out as well. So as you can see during the time lapse, we just added a lot of detail here. So we've got the animal areas, we've got the fruit and veg areas, and yeah, pretty much everything that I can find on the workshop that suits this theme has been put down. So it's more of a case of now is just cramming things up, because these market squares were not laid out pretty. It was very dirty and muddy, and everyone just put their stuff down where they could to get the best option to sell, really. So that was the idea I was trying to get across here, is just add a mass of features, lots of animals as well, because the market squares were not like they are nowadays. They were selling animals, they were selling absolutely anything they could to try and make their way and sort of live a comfortable life, really. So I'll certainly be keen on your guys' thoughts on sort of my interpretation of this island now. I was at first thinking we could just do it as a sort of a car park area down here of a hotel or something, but it didn't really suit my themes, to be honest. I don't really like going for basic things like that, and this just allows us really to open up and design in a completely different era and really just excel with the props that are on the workshop. I wanted to take full advantage of what there was available, and once I found these medieval based assets and props, it was really silly not to do this, really. It certainly works for me. It's definitely a fun way to work on a new build, and it's not something I've seen many people do. So not just because of that, I had the idea and I thought, let's go for it, let's see what happens. And yeah, I'll be keen to hear your thoughts, guys. Was it a mistake, or do you think this was the right thing to do? Despite there being enough on the workshop to do what I wanted to do, there's a lot of things I'd have loved to have had. Obviously the artillery and barracks and stuff like that would have been great to have put in the top area with the castle, but there's nothing actually on the workshop for that. But some of the builds that I have found that are for different things, like hospitals and a prison, do tend to work actually, even though the only downside to this is all these props I've placed are living props. And what I mean by that is the houses will have people living inside, the shops will need to have the lorries come to collect the goods and restock the goods. So it's more of a visual thing for me. I'm not really looking to manage this area, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it's a project, it's something I wanted to do, and yeah, it's coming along nicely. So what we're doing here is we're just going to add a few more bits, and trust me, I went back and forth during this take to find everything possible. And I also found these smoke as props even, and the fireplace as well, or fire, whatever you want to class it as. So I wanted to give the idea of some of these areas here are sort of cooking food as well. It's not just a case of everyone selling raw meat. There are bits where people are cooking food, and I thought I'd put a few bits down on top of these buildings here just to imitate the fact that yes, there are people cooking foods and giving food away as we speak. So the last few stages of completion of this market square was to add some puddles and some dirt and gravel around the floor. As we all know, this sort of era didn't really have much concrete. It was all just dirt and grass and stone, really. So I wanted to replicate that here, and I was thinking the addition of these puddles really does kick things off in terms of detailing. So we're going to jump into one final time lapse whilst I complete the last few sections, and we're going to have a look at an overview together, and we'll go through what we've done. Okay guys, so that is it. As you can see here as we're scrolling through, we've got our little village area down the bottom, we've got our fields, we've got our market square, and the next tier up we've got our ruined castle with the buildings that suit this area. So we put a stables in, we put a couple of shops, a few more houses. So this is meant to imitate the fact that the people that living at the top were the people that meant something and pretty much were the family of the castle, or the fighters. And these cinematic views do look absolutely incredible going across this area, and I'm extremely pleased with how it's turned out. So I'm going to leave you guys with the final bits of the overview of part 2 of the castle. I look forward to your feedback. Any comments, please leave them below, and subscribe and like my channel. Until next time, all the best.